Max Olson started his new opportunity again back with ESPN. Joins us today on his second day officially with the big boys in Bristol. Max, thanks for your time. Craig and Paul, I don't know if you just heard that, but Craig mentioned this as we went to the break, that Gary Patterson and Baylor have broken up, that they've moved in different directions. And it didn't sound, based on the statement, that even though jointly concluded, it didn't sound like there were like hugs and kisses and handshakes.
Yeah, I don't jointly concluded is, probably a diplomatic, professional way to call it. I don't know a ton of details on, obviously Gary Patterson, I think, was pretty heavily involved in the spring. And, I think we know that, we saw from his time with Sark at Texas, like, I think that Big 12 experience could bring a lot of value in helping a defense get ready during the season and stuff like that. Was that the right fit working with Baylor? Obviously they didn't make it through a fall camp together, so I don't know if that was always the plan. Guessing not, but I don't know how big of a deal is that. Do you guys think?
I don't know. I need to hear details. I mean, if it's that they weren't getting along, then that's understandable. But yeah, I don't know, Max. It's just kind of out of nowhere. I had asked Aranda at Media Days, what the plan was for Patterson, and he evaded the question originally, so I double backed on it, and he said, well, Gary Patterson's not going to be involved on game days, and that's all he really said. So I didn't think much of it at the time, but now looking back on it, it was him evading makes a little bit more sense, although I don't know, maybe they're getting along just fine behind the scenes. But, yeah, I think we're all just kind of surprised and caught off guard a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think when you've got two guys who are, considered two of the sharper, like, defensive minds in college football, you kind of wonder how well is that going to work together. And obviously there's a little bit different pressure on Dave Aranda this year to get this thing right. And, when you have these consultant roles, and like I know Sonny Dykes went and picked up Dana Holgerson and Todd Graham this week. You are seeing people kind of staff up a little more because they can right now. But, that's a very behind-the-scenes thing. And I think on the media side, we always kind of wonder, like, so what is the specific day-to-day role going on there? I think that'd be curious to know what Gary Patterson was doing for them this spring. And, did that kind of just run its course? But, hey, guys, between me going back to ESPN and Gary Patterson working for Baylor, I mean, literally anything's possible in this world.
That's true.
Here's the best response on the message board to Colt putting up that note on our message board. Good, I can hate him again.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. I imagine that is probably the message board response.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's weird to all of a sudden, I would imagine it's like Lex Luthor walking into the Justice League and like, oh no, he's gonna build something for us.
Good
and
they're
like, nah, I don't know. Like, build it and go, please. Like, that was probably the feeling
Stay out of our way.
the fans.
Max,
well, and a guy like Gary Patterson also is like, he's done this a long time. He's made plenty of money, and it's not doing it for the paycheck. I think it's doing it to stay involved and bring his expertise to the table. So. Maybe this was just not worth the time as much as other opportunities were.
Max, congratulations on the opportunity with ESPN. You were there, and then you went and spent a nice chunk of time at theathletic.com, all the time that we've been on since April of 2020 with you, and even before that. Your thoughts about this new endeavor, and also the fact that you were picked up as a free agent in the market, as a transfer portal and et cetera type of guy. That says quite a bit of all of what you've accomplished.
5-star transfer.
5-star, yeah.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, it basically is a transfer situation now that you think about it. That is true. It was just a wonderful experience at The Athletic for 7 years. I joined them in August of 2017 when we launched the college football vertical. And, that was just extremely fun to build something from scratch like that with a great group of people. And, I think I'm just ready for next step in my career and a new challenge. And, I think the role at ESPN will be national college football, probably a lot of the same stuff we usually talk about when I come on here. And certainly there'll be a lot of transfer portal, which you guys know I've been covering that quite a bit last few years. So, really excited for the opportunity and the platform and another great team of folks to work with. And, as you guys know, like, I just think this upcoming season is just going to be incredible and insane, and really excited to jump into covering it for them.
Do you think the transfer portal will be more like it was in the spring, where you see a Damian Martinez or someone like that jump, and those are more one-offs, and it's now more, I would say, people looking for their third or fourth school, or people that would be essentially redshirt freshmen that didn't like their first place they picked?
Well, I think in the future here, the portal, like, we'll see kind of what the impact is when all these players that got the extra season of eligibility all kind of filter out. They all kind of eventually get processed out of the system here. Maybe there are, in some ways, there are a few players who are like, well, I finished my degree here, I did everything I want to do, but I got this extra year, so I'll go in the portal and see if I can go make a little bit more money somewhere else, something like that. But I do think the portal is still going to be just like high school recruiting, still highly competitive, still a ton of tampering, still a ton of people trying to persuade the best players out there to come to their school. And, especially for the playoff contenders and the schools that want to be playoff contenders, like, I think it's still going to, continue to be an essential piece of roster building here. And, the fact that we have unlimited transfers now, too, means that we're just going to continue to see guys in this sport and other sports, maybe transfer multiple times during their career. And, I think this next cycle will, obviously there's still a lot to figure out here in terms of, how the money is going to work with the house settlement next year and stuff like that. But, I think we may have shorter transfer windows, but I think it's still going to be pretty chaotic.
Max, your colleague, now your new colleague once again, Bill Connolly, had an article out. The Big Ten and SEC schools are going to be rich and miserable. The Big 12 is going to have all the fun. The conference of close games and chaos is going to be closer and more chaotic than ever in 2024. And it was a really good read. I know we've talked a bit about the Big 12 moving forward and just what it's going to look like. But do you share those sentiments about being perhaps the most entertaining, most chaotic league moving forward?
I do, and I think that's probably the brand that Brett Yormark and his crew need to kind of lean into. That the Big 12, yes, obviously the Big 10 and the SEC have added these superpowers, and their races are going to be really intense and stuff. But I think that you need to lean into the brand being that this is going to be a really fun league where not just anyone can win any game, but anyone can win the conference. And I think we've seen that last few years in terms of, who's been playing for conference titles in the Big 12. And then you take Oklahoma and Texas out of that mix. Like, I think we're still at the point here where, there's just a ton of teams that feel pretty good about what they can do in 2024. And, certainly when you have the automatic bid, I think that it adds to a lot of attention on the Big 12 race. And there's just going to be so many games that are just going to be extremely watchable, that have good quarterback play, that have great coaching. I think it's going to be, it'll be an interesting adjustment to bring in the 4 new schools from the Pac, but I think it is going to be a really a pretty tremendous race. And, guys, you think back to last November and how some of those tiebreaker situations look like. I think it's going to be a doozy in terms of figuring out how do you sort out the top of the standings.
Do you feel like conferences are so large now that you really don't even have a conference champion?
What do you mean by that?
Well, like, there's 18 teams, and they're going to have a championship game with first and second place, but you almost, like, everyone doesn't get to play enough of each other, to me, to kind of sort it out to decide who's going to play. I know 9-0, 8-1, whatever. I just wonder about that. I wonder if that's really, like, if that has that same impact.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's certainly, when you think back to just a couple of years ago, that was one of the points of pride for the Big 12, is that you played the round robin schedule and everyone played everyone, and you felt like the 2 best teams at the end were the 2 best teams. And I think this year and last year you have a little bit more of that influence of, okay, how did the schedule shake out and who got some good breaks? I want to say last year Oklahoma State, didn't they just kind of not play any of the Texas schools, I think, with how their schedule turned out? So, there's going to be that kind of stuff going forward. I know that obviously they played Texas in Arlington, but, there is going to be a little bit of that going forward in terms of did you catch some good breaks on the schedule? Did you avoid some of the teams that are contenders in your conference slate and you make it to Arlington? I can understand how that maybe takes a little bit away from the respect of going all the way. But, I think the reality is that, even when Oklahoma was rolling, it was very difficult to go undefeated in this conference. And, I think that anybody that can win 10, 11 games in the Big 12 going forward here is going to be a pretty damn good team.
Now, the conspiracy theory about Patterson now is that he came to Baylor because he always hated them the most, right? Although Brawls is gone. He now has been around them for the last 8 months. Now he goes to somebody else in the Big 12 and shares all the information.
Yeah, I mean, they were 3-9 last year, so I don't really know how much that he really has
I don't
to
know
share,
if that's necessarily taking them down from the inside after a 3-9 season.
No. No, I saw somebody say, well, now they got to go to SMU and complete the
whole tour.
The whole tour. Max.
Collect all the polos.
Yeah. Max, Cam Ward, probably the biggest transfer portal name out there, picked as ACC preseason player of the year. At Miami, do you buy the hype around the Hurricanes? Talent-wise, it looks like they have it. It appears that the thing they need to get over is their coaching needs to get a little bit better.
I think it has to be a big year for Miami. Yeah, and I think that we talked about this in the spring when the portal was open, but I think it's very clear that after they added Cam Ward and saw what they had in spring, they're like, we need to make a run. And you look at you survey like the ACC race, and if you're Miami, there's probably not a lot of teams that you're scared of this year. So I think that the moves they made going to get, Damian Martinez and Sam Brown and just a ton of impact starter type guys, obviously expensive to do so. I think they're absolutely trying to make a run here. And I understand it's year 3 and all that, but like, I don't think if you're Mario Cristobal, you can kind of spin like 7-8 wins as like progress. I think people are expecting this team to, be a serious contender in the ACC title race. And, I think I think Cam Ward is legit. I think he's the real deal. And I think that, he has not, in his time at Incarnate Word and his time at Washington State, he has certainly not been surrounded by this much talent. So I'm really excited to see what he can do. I really like their receiving group. I think Martinez is one of the better backs in the country. And they got big men there. Cristobal has certainly invested a lot in terms of recruiting big men. So, I think that offense with Shannon Dawson should be a lot of fun. And, Miami is a team that, they open with Florida, and that's going to be extremely interesting for both fan bases. But, I think that Miami, if they're not playing in the ACC title game this year, then something went wrong.
Max, I know this is kind of an open-ended and generic question away, but I don't want to really lead you anywhere. Is there a team or a story or a player or something that you're interested in, not, far and away above all else, but just something that stands out to you that you in particular are excited to see or focus in on once college football season rolls around?
I think that, I'm excited about just the week to week what this is going to feel like this season, not because of conference realignment necessarily, but I'm excited to see the way that the 12-team playoff changes, like the way we watch the sport here this fall, because I think I know that there's some people who just are, they don't love this change and they feel like, oh, this takes away, some of the stakes from the really big game. And I get that, but obviously there's going to be a chance for more rematches with the way the playoff is set up. But yeah, I'm just excited for when we get to November. And I just feel like there's going to be so many games every week that matter, that we care about. And I think it's going to be good for the sport. I think that's just a much healthier thing than this SEC power is running away with it and everybody else, who cares? I think expanding from 4 to 12, I understand if that's going to lead to a couple teams that can't hang with the best teams making the playoff and maybe getting embarrassed. But we already kind of had that in the semifinals. So, I mean, that was already kind of happening most years. So, I think that's kind of a broad answer, but I think that this season is going to be pretty incredible. And look, it may end with Georgia rolling everybody or some kind of very predictable national champion, but I think the race to get in there is going to feel really different.
No, I agree with you. And I think, if a team starts out slow because of an injury or something, you lose a couple games, your season's not necessarily over by October. You still can make a run, and I think that's exciting. Whereas for all of our lives, basically, you drop a game or two most years, and you're already just kind of done no matter when that occurs. But, I think it's going to be –
I'll give you an example, and you guys have obviously covered some Baylor teams that, if you put them in a 12-team playoff, it would have been super interesting. But, back in 2012, Texas A&M was not ready to play for a national championship. But if you put that team with Johnny and how hot they were on their good days in a 12-team playoff, they're not going to be a top 4 seed, but could they go make a deep run? I think it'd be extremely interesting. I think you guys, like I said, you've seen a few Baylor teams that you would like to go see. How do they go line up against a Big Ten team or SEC team and in a postseason, or even in a postseason home game? And, even if they didn't go undefeated, like, can they make a big run here? So, yeah, I think it's going to create some different contenders. And again, like, I just think that's a lot more exciting for fan bases. I think it's more exciting for media too, just to see how this shakes out.
Yeah, I also think that you got your 0-1 Miamis and your 95 Nebraskas, but whoever comes out on the other side of this playoff format is going to be one of the greatest teams of all time, simply because of what you're going to have to do in the postseason alone to raise a national championship. So I'm looking very much forward to that. I know you got to go, and we do too, Max. But before we let you go, how has I know there's the job transition, all that, but we really know you've been gone because of College Football 25 being out the last couple of weeks. What's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, I want to clear this up. I'm glad that I was able to announce a new job, because I really did not want people to get the impression that I quit my job at the Athletics to play video games full time. Right. That is not what happened. That being said, have I played a lot of video games in the past few weeks? Of course, yeah. It's been a lot of fun. I'm still kind of at the point, like, I just started up a dynasty with Tulane the other day, trying to figure out how to build them up as a group of 5 school. But, like, I think it's the thing that's still so fun about it and kind of overwhelming in a good way is just having 134 different teams in it and having all these stadiums and all these uniforms and, kind of just learning all these different playbooks and kind of learning to play with all these different teams. There's a ton of those, like Georgia and Michigan and all these, like Oklahoma and all these schools I've just never even played a game with yet, because there's just a lot to get to there. It's a super impressive game, and I'm sure your listeners who are around my age have probably enjoyed coming back to the video games and dabbling in that a little bit.
Well, according to statistics, they're hammering away at it, man. Millions and millions and millions. So good for them.
Did I see like 500 million?
Yep.
Did you guys see that?
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that in an article yesterday. Yeah. Crazy.
Yep, that's crazy. And
they're doing all right.
Good luck with them. Max, congratulations on the opportunity. You and I will negotiate this as we move forward, but we have changed the graphic, and also now with the new name of where you are with ESPN. Thanks for your time.
Hey, thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys always supporting me the way you have over the years, and look forward to hopping on again.
Well, we do too. It's Max Olson I'm going to probably slip a couple of times because it's just Max Olson with ESPN with us, and we appreciate his time.